Welcome back. It's Brandon again. In this one, we're going to go over the basics of animation. Um, you may be thinking, hooray, we get to start animating stuff, but don't hooray just yet until you actually get to see what we're animating. Today, we're going to animate a ball. That is it. Just a ball. I'm adding a material to it just because I feel like it, and so I can call it a beach ball, and that it kind of will look like a beach ball. So, alright, this is my beach ball. I'm going to hit 6 for shaded. You don't need to make a beach ball. I'm just saying. Alright, so I'm going to move this up, and I'm going to move this about over. Scroll out a little bit. And I think I shall make something to look similar to the ground. And, okay. So, why not? Since we're going, this is a beach ball bouncing on grass. Yes, I know a beach ball typically doesn't bounce so well off of grass, but hey, it's my imagination, leave me alone. Alright, so, in the Maya interface, you can see at the bottom we have this little timeline. And we have a scroll bar. And we've got 4 boxes with numbers in them. 5 boxes with numbers in them. Okay, so when you select a frame, this will show you what frame you're on. If you want to get a particular frame, if you've got like a 3,000 frame movie and you want to go to frame 1012, or if you want to go to frame 12, you just type in 12 and hit enter and it will go to frame 12. Hooray! This first box is the start time of the animation. Typically you leave this at 1, so your animation starts at the beginning. This second box is the start of your playback range, which we'll talk about in just a second here. Jumping over to this, 24, where it says 24, that is the end of our playback range, and 48 is the end of our animation. So if you look, my animation starts at frame 1. If I grab the scroll bar and scroll over, all the way over, it ends at 48. Now you can see my playback range is reflected by 25, which is 25 over here, and my playback range ends at 48, which is reflected by 48 here. Now, on this scroll bar here, it has little boxes at either end. That's so you can adjust your playback range. If I want to see the entire movie, I can just drag those boxes all the way to the ends. Now I can see frame 1 through 48. If you've got a longer animation, you may not want to see the whole thing. You may not want to play the whole thing in the preview window. If you change this, the end of your playback range to 24, hit enter. It's going to change the end of your playback range to 24. If you change the end time of your animation to 500, it's going to change. It is going to add a number of frames to your movie, just so you're aware. Now that we've kind of gone over this, we've also got a play button. We've got play backwards, we've got step back 1 key, step back to 1 frame, step back to the beginning, or start of the playback range. And they do pretty much that. If I hit play, I don't know if you can see that on the recording on YouTube, but you actually will see the highlighted box flying all the way down to the end of the playback range, and then back to the beginning, over and over and over, very, very fast. It's only going to play 24 frames. It's not going to play the other 476 frames. It's just not going to play them until you adjust your playback range. But if you have that many frames and you have your whole playback range selected, if you want to select frame 72, well, you're going to have to try real hard or type 72 in here. I'm going to, for purpose of this animation, now that I've talked for half the movie, I'm going to set it back to 48 frames. Okay. And I'm going to just highlight frame 1. So this is where my ball is going to start. I've got it positioned where I want it. I'm going to hit S on the keyboard to set a keyframe. Or you can, well, this button down here, auto keyframe toggle, if that's on, every time I move the ball, okay, I go to frame 10, and I move the ball down. Okay. It should automatically set a keyframe, which is indicated by a little red line, or not. If it doesn't, you can hit S, and what you'll see if I move off of that frame, you'll see this little red line indicating that there's a keyframe on frame 10. So if I hit S on frame 1, or set a keyframe, okay, that will give me the little red line. Go to frame 10, move the ball, hit S, that will set another keyframe. Now if you click and drag in this timeline, you'll see I have my ball moves down. Okay. Now, kind of real life type thing, it would squash when it hits the ground. So I'm going to go another, we'll say another 5 frames. Put on my scale tool. I'm going to squash it. I'm going to put on my move tool. I'm going to move it down. And since I have auto keyframing on, this is red, it's already created a keyframe for me. Or you can just click there, hit S, and it will make a keyframe. Go 5 more frames. I'm going to put on my scale tool and try and get it back to normal. Now, if you want to get it exactly back to normal in your channel box, if that's not open, you can click this third button here, and it will open your channel box. This is red because it's a keyframed attribute, but just hit that back to 0. Hit enter. Oops, sorry, hit it back to 1. We're going to scale it back to 1. And I'm going to move this back up so it's just touching the ground. Go down here, click on frame 20, hit set, and then to the very end of my movie, I'm going to have it bounce back up very slowly, as if defying gravity. Go down here, hit S to set a keyframe. Now if I hit play, it will play my entire animation rather fast, but it's animating nonetheless. In this channel box up here, anything that turns red is a keyable attribute. What that means is if you change one of these attributes, so if you move the ball, that's what translate is, if you move it, if you rotate it at all, if you scale it at all, or if you change its visibility and then set a new keyframe, that will update in that keyframe. An important thing to note about animation is that every object has its own timeline, has its own animation timeline. So if I select the ground here, all of my red marks disappear, okay, because there's nothing keyed on this one. If you have a character and you move his foot and put a keyframe, he may not necessarily have a keyframe on his arm because it's a different object. That just allows you to, select my ground, hit S to set a keyframe. I want to rotate this, or I want to go to, frame 25, I want to rotate it, and I want to set another keyframe. I want to go to 44, and I want to rotate it more, and I want to set another keyframe. I hit S. So now when I play, my ground is going to spin and my ball is going to bounce. So just keep in mind everything has its own animation type timeline. So if you're trying to update the ball and you have the ground selected, it ain't gonna happen. So play around with that, and we'll get more into animation some other time, maybe later when I come back, if I come back.